Was there ever a moment you're like, I'm not going to do this for a while. I'm just going to feel it out?
I remember like sitting down with my boss at that point and him asking like, hey, 6 months in, how are things going? I was like, I'll be honest, I think I'm gonna get fired. I love the hunting part, right? I love going out.
Where does the fire of just work ethic come from for you?
No one's ever asked me that question. I'll be honest, it's a good question.
What, in your opinion, makes a successful entrepreneur?
One of my favorite quotes is success is hidden in the boring basics.
I'm curious to know kind of the similarities or differences you saw between athletics recruiting when you're recruiting for a football team or when you're recruiting in the corporate world, in the agency world.
Every candidate is driven by different things. Yes, there might be some similarities, but each person's unique. Like you're selling an opportunity. And if you're talking to clients, obviously you're selling a service as well.
What's like a top 2, top 3 tip maybe you would give them high level?
I think people like to think that major changes are what they need to be successful. More often than not, it's small changes. You don't need to throw out everything and start over. The world has changed. The landscape has changed. You have to change with it.
Can you teach someone to develop a growth mindset? Can you teach someone to have a better work ethic?
Yeah, no, I think you can. I think you can teach it. The enterprise deals could set you up for years to come.
If there's one advice maybe that you can give to the audience, welcome back to the Kickstart podcast. On this episode, we have the pleasure of hosting Keely, who has over a decade of experience in client acquisition where he generated over 10 million in revenue within the recruitment space. Previously, he worked extensively within sales and recruitment at fantastic companies like ADP, and he was also a football coach earlier on in his career. Keely, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind introduction.
Appreciate that. So I guess a fitting way to start, for those who are more unfamiliar with your background, would you just mind sharing a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on a little bit about the coaching background. When I graduated college, I played at a Division III school. I was a football player there, and I decided to go into the college coaching world for 5 years, and it was a blast, right? You worked really long hours. I always make the joke, although it's relatively true. In the first year of marriage, I saw my wife for like maybe a day total because of the hours I worked and on the road for recruiting. Because even in the off season where it appears coaches might be getting some time off, it's not the case, because you're spending, for me at least, I spent 3 months out of the year in Iowa recruiting every day, and ultimately wanted to get back to Chicago, got out of coaching, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I just want to get a corporate job, right? I just got back to Chicago. I'm getting out of football coaching, and I stumbled across the recruiting industry, probably like most people, because a recruiter reached out to me, and I was actually confused as the candidate when she's like, oh, I have this opportunity at this company, and I was like, wait, I thought I was interviewing with your company. She's like, no, I'm interviewing you for this other company. And after that point, I realized, wait, I've recruited for the last 5 years high school athletes. Maybe I can sell that skill in an interview, because I really didn't know what skills I had. And from that point forward, I just started interviewing at recruitment firms, which back in 2015 got me started in the space. So that's kind of my foray into the wonderful world of recruiting.
Wow. When you started recruiting, was there ever a moment you're like, I'm not going to do this for a while, I'm just going to feel it out? Or was it just kind of like love at first sight in the first 30 days?
It was not love at first sight. No, it was humbling. It was brutal at times. I mean, the first 6 months, I remember like sitting down with my boss at that point and him asking like, hey, 6 months in, how are things going? I was like, I'll be honest, I think I'm going to get fired. Like things aren't going my way. Candidates are backing out. They're failing drug screens, offers being pulled. Like I had a variety of bad breaks. And he even said, he's like, look, I'll be honest, like it's the worst start I've seen from a luck perspective. The one thing you have going for you is you're putting in the effort and you're doing the things you're being told to do. And he said, if you stick with it, you will be successful. You've got the foundation, so to speak. And from months 6 through 10, because I was only a 180 recruiter at this point, I went from like 1 or 2 placements to presidents. I was pacing on President's Club level, and like the fool I kind of am, at the 10-month mark, they said, hey, do you want to switch to sell? And also, do you want to move into a different division? I said, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah, why not? So I gave up the presidential route for being a recruiter and decided to start all over again in sales. And the same thing happened. It was 6 months of just brutal, hard work, like blood, sweat, and tears. So in both instances, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to make it. Like I did not fall in love with the industry at all. It beat me up, to say the least.
Yeah, I think it does that to everyone. So what happened afterward? Like why at that point you're like, you know what? Sales is what I want to continue doing. And then you ended up leaving that and joining other positions in other companies.
Yeah.
What about sales really resonated with you?
I love the hunting part, right? I love going out and winning new business. I think a sales position in general, you're like part detective, part salesperson, because if you're calling on really any account that's over, let's say 50 people, there's multiple entry points you'd be reaching out to. You got to figure out like, how do those puzzle pieces fit together in order for me to get a meeting, or what conversations do I have have with each individual in order to get them on the same page so they decide to sign the contract. And I really love that, the grind, I guess, because it is a grind too. I mean, this is not easy. I don't hide the fact that sales is hard. I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in the social media that make it seem like you can 10x in 30 days. It's like, nah, not really. Like maybe once in a while someone gets lucky. I'm not saying it's never happened, but the reality is it takes a lot of hard work and effort to get there. And I enjoyed it, right? Like I said, I was a football coach prior, and it's a grind in the coaching world, and it's kind of a grind in the sales role as well. And so those two pieces together really kind of fueled my fire. I love getting new business. And also it didn't hurt that the money was better on the sales side. Like it just was. Better compensation plan, higher base. So that was also an attractive feature of going to the sales side only.
We're probably going to dig into this a little bit more in this episode, but where does the fire of just work ethic come from for you? Because it is absolutely a grind, right? And when I started in sales, both Ryan and I, we started in sales, obviously recruiting as well. It's an absolute grind. It's not sexy. It's not trendy. You just got to sit down, make those calls, send out those emails at a level of cadence or level of output. It would exhaust anybody. But yeah. I think like the ones that can actually perform really well, the ones that can actually be consistent at it and push forward, whether or not they want to do it, right? And so was there anything that maybe it harkens back to your athletic days or your coach as a football player, but where does that like relentless drive and work ethic come from that helped you kind of find success?
Yeah, no one's ever asked me that question. I'll be honest, it's a good question. I think a lot of it ties back to just like my upbringing in general. My dad, just growing up, he was a grinder, is the best way I could say it, right? He actually worked as a garbage truck driver. He worked in the construction space. I remember as a kid, him going out, like, I mean, I'm in Chicago, so we get snow, obviously, and he would pitch in and plow like businesses' parking lots to make extra money and stuff. So he was always a grinder out there, just like working his butt off to provide for the family. And I think that combined, with the sports background too. I mean, I was never the biggest kid, the fastest kid by any means, but I was the kid that was willing to put in the work to get to the starting position, to get to the awards that I wanted to get to. And so those two things combined together, I think, is what led to the work ethic I have today.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because, again, I know you and I have never met in person, but I'm not the tallest guy, not the most jacked guy either. But I told myself when I got my first job in recruiting, I was actually one of the oldest guys there, right? They hired fresh out of college, and I started a business, and then I went to business school, and then somehow I was like a mid-20s, and I was surrounded by 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let that bother me, but I'm just going to count on myself. If you just teach me what to do, show me what direction to go into, all I can count on is I will put the work in 200% every single day. And that's what helped me catapult my career as a recruiter. And I was so kind of excited to chat with you because I find the whole sports background really fascinating, Keely, because I think there's a lot of similarities between when people ask me today, like, what in your opinion makes a successful entrepreneur or even a recruiter or a sales professional? Like, what previous experience did they do to kind of give you maximize a chance or gives you thinking that they have a good probability of finding success down the line? I'm like, yeah, of course, if they started their own company before or previous sales experience, that helps. Or if they were also in the athletic game, right? Like there's so much discipline you have to really learn to wake up early, practice, lift weights, eat right, day in, day out, and it really builds that regimented kind of discipline that you need in sales to just perform. And so do you agree with that? Or do you also see other similarities between like athletics, sports, coaching, and like sales and what you're able to do?
I definitely think having that athletic background helps, right? One of my favorite quotes is success is hidden in the boring basics. And whether in sales or going back to the sports metaphor, it goes back to the basics, right? If you think about football at its fundamental level, football is a game of blocking and tackling. Those are the two most basic skills you can have in the game. Now, there's a lot of fancy stuff out there. We all watch Patrick Mahomes, right? He's amazing. The team's amazing. They do all these fancy things, but ultimately it still comes down to blocking and tackling. And even to my days, because I played offensive line, it comes down to your footwork, right? It's like, where does your first step go? Is it 6 inches this way, 6 inches? Like those are the stuff that you talk about day in and day out, and you repeat day in and day out. I literally, for the first 10 minutes of practice every day in college, I did the same drills. My coach made us do it. It's not like I wanted to. We just do the same footwork drills 10 minutes a day, every day for 4 years. So like that is the boring basics that are needed to be successful. And the same applies for sales too, because if you're in that athletic background and you're repeating these things over and over again, you understand how to build on those basics and why they're important too. Because we're all subject to shiny object syndrome, myself included. You see the fancy tool, you see something cool, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna chase after this, and like maybe I'll do things differently. It's like, yeah, you can, but you still have to get back to the basics, right? Because once we start straying away from the basics, that's when I think a lot of problems occur within our sales strategy, our messaging, how we run discovery meetings, and everything that goes within the sales process.
You can learn all the fancy tactics and strategies and buzzwords, but if you're just not going to show up and do the work.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, they want the quick hack, right? Like
they want the quick hack.
Yeah, they want AI to do our entire job. I'm all for people thinking that'll be the silver bullet, because those of us out there that are willing to put in the work are going to run laps around those people easily.
100%. Yeah. And I totally agree. And I'm also in the same mindset of that sports background is super helpful when it comes to anything recruiting, anything sales. But speaking specifically more about your time on the coaching side, Keely, I'm curious to know kind of the similarities or differences you saw between athletics recruiting when you're recruiting for a football team or when you're recruiting in the corporate world, in the agency world. And what was the overlap there, or what was different?
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, I coached at the D3 and D2 level. And for those who don't really understand all the levels, you don't really have scholarships, right? For what we see mostly on Saturdays, those people you see playing have full rides. So everything's paid for. At the D2 level, you have like partial scholarships. So you're giving away some money. And at the D3 level, there's nothing. So ultimately, you're recruiting high school athletes to come there based on things outside of I'm going to pay you. So you have to learn what they're looking for. Like, what is it in the school that they want? What is it in the program that they want? What is it in the position coach they want? And then you need to tie your offering, aka what my university offers, to what it is they want. And I think the same applies in the recruitment world, right? If you're speaking with candidates, every candidate is driven by different things. Yes, there might be some similarities, but each person's unique. And for one person, maybe benefits is the most important piece when it comes to accepting an offer if all things are equal. For someone else, it could be remote work. For someone else, it could be career growth. But if you go in with the cookie cutter mindset of I'm gonna put everyone in the same box and they're all gonna think and want the same thing, you're not gonna win people over. Because even as a recruiter talking to candidates, you're still selling. Like, you're selling an opportunity. And if you're talking to clients, obviously you're selling a service as well. But I think between those two, the coaching high school athletes and the recruiting, it's really just understanding what it is they want and then connecting the dots to what it is I have to offer. Because if you can do that, that's how you get people to listen and ultimately accept or move forward with the job or sign on the dotted line and come to your university.
It's so easy in sales to be like, hey, this is what I want to give you, without even considering or being empathetic what the receiving party's thinking and feeling, right?
Yeah.
People should start there first and then reverse engineer it to craft your message. And even though it seems common sense to me, you'd be surprised, like, people just don't think like that, or a lot of them don't, right? But let's get into it. So with me, recruitment equals sales. Everything we do is sales. People can agree with me, they can disagree with me, but everything, in my opinion, is 100% sales. It's literally a sales job, but it's just reworded as a recruiter.
Sure.
Which I think
as a recruiter.
Yeah. And so, like, we talk to people who are running full desks, solo recruiters. We have people who are corporate agency recruiters who wanting to become agency recruiters or solopreneurs. But where are, I guess, aside from like understanding really the pain point or like the mindset of the recipient here, where are recruiters dropping the ball when it comes to sales? What are the biggest problems that they're experiencing today, and why are people having such a trouble doing it?
I think it goes back to the shiny object syndrome. I think a lot of people are falling victim to tech being the silver bullet to their problems, thinking, oh, if I just get this tool, or if I get the CRM, or if I buy Zoom info. Like, I talked to someone recently and she started her agency, and one of the first things she did was buy a very expensive database. And I didn't want to tell her, but I was like, I would have definitely invested that capital somewhere else to start, because you need to have a sales strategy, a sales plan, a territory plan, so we call it market mapping. Like, you need to understand who is your ideal customer. How do you serve them? Okay, how do you help them? What goes on in their industry? What keeps them up at night? And then who within my territory, aka is it geographical, is it natural? Like, who falls into that bucket? And then from there, create a plan. I think a lot of people, they don't have plans. They come into Monday and they go, ooh, there's a job order, I'm gonna chase that. Ooh, wait, I reached out to this person 3 months ago, I'll follow up again. Ooh, what about this? It's like, there's no continuity in their sales process and their outreach process and their follow-up process. And as a result, a lot of deals slip through the cracks, they're getting forgotten about, or they reach out a few times and they just say, I didn't get anything, I move on. And then they re-engage 4 months later. Like, you have no momentum built. They don't know who you are. And I think, one of the biggest learning points in my career early on, I was meeting with somebody and I knew there's other recruitment agencies in there, like 4 or 5. And I remember asking, hey, what makes you call it out? Like, who do you call out the roles to? Because you have the choice of 5 different agencies. And his response was, whoever's business card is on top of this pile. And like, I kind of like laughed in the moment. I was like, man, like, all right. But then when I really reflect on it, the way the message I took from it is who stays top of mind for this individual, right? Because that's who's going to reach out to, not the person who shows up every 4 months and says, hey, do you got a job I can work on? It's the person that's staying in touch with them, staying in front of them, providing maybe value beyond just, hey, I'm here to fill roles, because there's ways to provide value beyond that. There's a lot more ways you can do that, but a lot of people are very binary with their mindset. And I think that's where I see a lot of of people slipping up and like really falling short of their goals is they don't have a sales strategy at all. It's just wing it, spray and pray, and hope for the best. And that usually doesn't work out. It worked out maybe a couple of years ago when the industry was hot and like you could call the place and they're so desperate, like, yeah, please send over, like, you got good people, yeah, I'll sign a contract. Now though, it's a value-driven sales process. If you can't demonstrate value, you're not going to get prospects' attention. You're certainly not getting meetings or contracts.
The landscape has completely changed, right? 5 years ago, anyone with half a brain can send out a half-ass email and just collect clients left, right, and center. But now it's completely a different ballgame to what you just said. You've talked a lot about a lot of things. So like, doing the right research and staying organized and just like targeting, market mapping really, really well, understanding like the ethos of your recipient. In a high level, can you just share like what is your overarching sales methodology, or do you have a principle or a strategy? Because everyone has their own approach. So like, what's Keely's approach? Yeah, we'd love to hear more about that.
I would say it's I've called it the top 50 methodology. It's like a combination of like the Pareto principle with your territory plan, because for most people, once you really refine your ICP, unless you're in like a very small area, I'm in Chicago though. For me, I've sold life sciences, I've sold healthcare. There's a lot of companies I could target. Like I would say probably most people on average, it's between 300 to 400 companies you could target, but the question becomes, should you target them? And that's not always the case. And I think coming in with a plan of, hey, here's my top 50 accounts that I'm going to continually go after quarter is what keeps people on track and moves the ball forward and ultimately gets contracts in place. And then the other side too is it's a living, breathing document. This isn't something that if you create today on January 28th, it'll be the same thing on December 28th. Because as you learn new information about the accounts, you need to ask yourself, do I continue prospecting and do it or not? Again, I've learned that the hard way. I prospected in a place that was called Sensient Technologies for 2 years. It had hundreds of openings. Like on paper, it was phenomenal. I wanted meetings with multiple managers, multiple VPs. I made the mistake of not asking the right questions though, only to get to the end stage with procurement, contract stage, and they wanted a rates at half of what we usually did. They wanted guarantees twice as much as we can do. They wanted candidate ownership for a year. It was like the worst contract I've ever seen, like in terms of what they wanted. And we just walked, like we left the meeting. I brought my like VP of sales because I was so pumped. I'm like, I need you on this. We need to close this big deal. And we walked out of there. I was devastated. I mean, literally 2 years. I think if you summed up, it was probably a month worth of my life with all the meetings and prospecting that I could have figured out a lot sooner. They weren't worthwhile, and gotten them out of my territory plan and replaced them with a better, more deserving client.
I've heard you in the past, Keely, mention, I believe you call it like an account focus document, more of for this specific account, here's my game plan. And I'd be curious if you could talk a little bit more about that, because I enjoyed hearing about it.
Yeah. I mean, really, if you think of it from like a workflow perspective, as that's kind of how my brain works. You've got your ICP, right? Okay, here's my ideal client profile. Now, what are the accounts that match with it? Okay, I've got my accounts. Now, who are the people I'm going to be reaching out to? Great, I've got that. Now, what is my plan for each one of those individuals? And like an account focus doc is a line by line, goal by goals you have within each specific account. And if you're just starting a new territory, your goals will be much more top of funnel. It'll be, hey, identify 10 new leads, right? But now you're holding yourself accountable to finding 10 people, inputting into your CRM, and then from there, you're going to do some outreach. As you continue to grow your book of business, you're going to want to eventually build that moat, because you will get to a certain point where it's going to be harder to prospect all the time, which is fine. Like I think we all want to get to that stage. So by build the moat, I mean, we got to lock down this business and make sure no one comes in and takes it, because there's someone's always out there trying to steal your lunch. And you may have account focused goals where it's, I got to get this person out to lunch. I got to follow up with them about their upcoming cruise. I got to check in because I knew they had a newborn. I'm going to send them a gift, right? Like very specific goals that, again, move the ball forward, continue to build the relationship, continue to get more entry points, but ultimately these small wins will lead to the big stuff. And I think the other bonus to having this is if you have the binary mindset of placement, no placement, right? Success, failure, you're going to drive yourself insane. Again, I know, because I did that. I thought like, oh, I'm not getting placements. Like, what does it matter? It's like, yeah, but you went on 5 new meetings at this account that you knew nothing about at the beginning of the quarter. And yeah, you didn't get a contract in place, but you learned more about it. And now you've better insights to refine your pitch on the next meeting. And each one of these small little wins is going to stack up to that big win, which is the contract, the multiple placements. Again, if you're just looking at it success or failure, you're going to burn yourself out. I was there. I was burnt out. Even when I was producing President's Club levels, I wasn't enjoying the small wins. I was just like, well, it's not good enough, right? Because I'm not tracking for X number anymore. I drove myself insane doing that.
Do you think the developments of technology is helping sales professionals overall or hurting them when it comes to developing relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess honestly, I think it's hurting. I'll be honest. Like, I think it is hurting just because a lot of people are turning to automation and AI to just like handle everything for them. I personally believe AI is great. First off, like I always put this caveat. I love AI. I was using it this morning to help refine some some stuff that I was writing out. But when it comes to the two highest value activities you can do in our world, in the recruitment space, I think are talking to candidates, talking to clients and prospects, right? Everything else is secondary to those two things. If you do those two things a lot, I guarantee you'll be successful long-term because you have to do those things to make placements. I think everything else from an AI perspective should be behind the scenes for those. But when it comes time to person, I want to step in. I want to have the conversation. I want to develop the relationship, and I want that human to human interaction. I also think prospects want that too. I mean, this isn't new technology with LinkedIn, but LinkedIn voice notes, not a lot of people use them. The amount of people that respond to me saying like, wow, like I had a guy last week, he's like, no one's ever sent me this. Like no one's ever like held up their phone, like sent a 27-second message and shot off. Like he's like, no one's ever done this to me. And it caught his attention immediately. And I think a lot of people from the prospect side / client, they want that human interaction. They want to see your face via video. They want to hear your voice via LinkedIn voice note. They don't want the AI generated, hey, I saw you like this post. Like I hate those things. Like it's like everyone's trying to take the shortcuts, and prospects are getting wiser to that because as they see more and more of it, they realize it's just AI generated, and they're leaning more and more towards the human interaction side of things.
The reason why I ask is I love how you said that, hey, should I take this person out for lunch? Because when I learned, and again, I'm not super old, I have been working for like decades, but even, when I started as a recruiter in 2014, around that time, like it was all about meeting the candidates and clients in person.
Yep.
And where's the magic of that? And even almost a decade later, some of our best accounts are the ones I made the effort, take out to dinner, take out to lunch. They keep coming back. And yeah, in a business world, I love the fact that you said, you got to create your moat, because if you're not making the effort, meet someone in person, someone else will. There's no amount of calls or emails that will be as impactful as an in-person coffee or lunch or dinner,
yep.
Right? But then, with AI and Zoom and all that stuff, all that magic is going away, and people are becoming less patient, and people are becoming lazier. They're like, why meet Keely when I can just do a Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And I think for those who are still like focused in our local geographic market, or people who can commute, you absolutely should make the effort to do that, because do not underestimate the power of just meeting someone in person.
I mean, 100% agree. I met someone, they're Indiana, which isn't too far from me, like maybe an hour away, Indiana-based hospital. And I kind of asked her the same question I asked that other, how do you choose who to work with? And her current recruitment agency, she's like, they're not even local. She's like, I'd never seen them. She's like, you're the first rep I've seen in the last couple of years. Like, really? Like, no one's driven out? Like, they were an ideal client. I was blown away that no one was making the effort to show up, take her out to lunch, sit down with her face to face. I mean, it goes a long, long way. Even I was thinking back as you're talking, some of my best business development weeks were in the life sciences space. There's a chemistry week. I literally spent every day dropping off bagels to all my prospects and clients. I mean, we're talking 5-minute FaceTime, like not a lot. Like I'm driving an hour north to drop off bagels and talk to a manager for 5 to 7 minutes. The amount of positive responses and like calls I got later on because of that far outweighed anything you could do from an email or AI type outreach, right? They loved it. They thought it was great because it showed you put in a little extra effort and a little extra care.
In terms of AI, is there anything that you are excited for specifically about like augmenting, improving the sales process, or just more concerned?
I mean, I'm excited about, I know like ChatGPT just dropped like the operator. I mean, the hot topic right now is that DeepSeek, I believe it is. But I'm excited about some of the manual research. Like this has been going on for a couple of years now, mind you. But like a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to doing like account research, buyer persona research, AI can really do a lot of that stuff for you. Where you could, in theory, come in to work every day. You know about so-and-so's background. You can know what's going on with the company. And there might be alerts that popped up, right? All that stuff you can automate and have delivered to you. Now it's your job to take that information and then use it within your outreach to those prospects. But I think when it comes to some of the manual admin of work of prospecting and researching, I'm excited for the fact what AI can do about that. The scary part though is, I mean, it is like the rise of, there's AI video, right? There is that. And there's AI, I mean, outreach messaging, as we know, there's thousands of them. I'm curious / scared to see where it goes from here, because someone smarter than me once said, like, the version you see today is the worst version you'll see moving forward. And when you think about it, it's like that is true, right? This, in theory, this technology should only get better and better. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at in 3 to 5 years from a video perspective. Or, I mean, hell, someone reached out to me and they said, hey, I have an AI inbound bot. You want to give it a call? And I'm curious. I'm like, hell yeah, let me try it out. Was it great? No, but like, it wasn't bad either. Like I was conversing with an AI bot on the phone. I'm like, this isn't like terrible. So like I am kind of scared we'll lose the human interaction that I think we all want and crave. I mean, we're a social species. That's just a fact. I just fear where AI takes it from here, honestly.
I think that's the one thing you just can't take away is the human element. We're human beings.
I think the one things that like I put my head down in the pillow at night and like will rest a little bit easier is like user adoption, right? It takes a lot for people to make change. And even if AI gets better and better, the end user still has to accept the fact that they're talking with a bot and feel comfortable doing that. I just know from my own personal stance, I wouldn't want to talk to an AI recruiter who might place me at a new job. I don't trust that bot, right? How's it supposed to really understand me and my goals, my ambitions? It can be trained on all this, all the language out there, but I just will never get to the point where I feel trustworthy enough that a robot has my best interests at heart.
Yeah,
and
I agree. And I think
the same way.
100%. Yeah. I also kind of have that a little uneasy feeling, like you mentioned, of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I have no clue. Like maybe we should be more scared. But I think for right now, and as you'd mentioned, the most important thing for you to do is talk to clients, talk to candidates. And I just think that it's good, it's probably really good, but it's not all the way there that what a human can do and have that human touch in those conversations. So
yeah,
I
I'm
agree.
curious if regulation comes around. Like I had a discussion with somebody. I would probably prefer if government started regulating it, that if I asked, hey, am I talking to an AI? They're then legally obligated to say yes. And if I want to opt out, they'd have to transfer me to a live person. I don't know, right? I do worry. This is constantly on my mind of like, we're not just recruiting in general, like where the world will be in 5 to 10 years. I have kids. My oldest is 8. So the world she's going to grow up in, and all the rest of them for that matter, it's going to be an AI driven world. I just worry what world they'll be in when they get to my age.
I'm just lucky I wasn't born like 100 years from now.
Sure.
we're still living in this like, the last kind of overlap, the transitional phase before AI becomes more and more robust. And it is as the worst type of AI, or like I guess dumbest will be, is today, right? It'll get better and better incrementally. And I'm like, hey, as long as it's not in my lifetime, I'm all good.
Maybe. But I mean, they're even saying like AI will be able to figure out advances in medicine and research where we could all live an extra 100 years beyond what's normal. Like, I don't know. I mean, the movies like Minority Report, there's all those movies out there that have done stuff around AI. Yeah, what the world will be like. I mean, I'm more short-sighted like in the next 5 years, but it'll be interesting to see how the technology advances over the next decade.
For me, what's interesting, Keely, is that a lot of similar conversations took place in the real estate space, right? So real estate agents are, if you think about it, really similar to what agency recruiters do. They're kind of the middlemen between buyer and sellers. We're the middlemen between job seekers and hiring managers. And they were freaking out like AI is going to disrupt, no more real estate agents. And they've come to a conclusion where it's like, AI there's a time and place. Right now, it's not a human being. There's still so much for it to kind of develop. There's a significant gap from it really dialing in and nailing the whole human person element. But a lot of the mundane things that real estate agents do, kind of like what we have to do when it comes to sales or recruiting, there's a lot of manual steps. If we can find ways to make that more efficient or move faster, be optimized, I'm all for that, embracing AI, right?
Me too, because it frees you up for more time to have those conversations. Again, the 2 highest value activities. The more you can free up to focus on those 2 things, I think the more successful you can be. And if I'm even tying back to the question of where people slip up in the territory plan, is that stage of the sales process. It's slow, it's hard, it's kind of boring, but that slowing down phase will help you speed up as time goes on, because you're gonna be better informed about what's going on in your prospect's world, the industry. You become more and more of an expert, and you're gonna be able to run faster than if you hadn't taken the time to slow down and really nail down your sales strategy.
2 questions. So if someone was listening to this right now and they're like a beginner recruiter, or perhaps they started their agency and they're struggling big time with, let's just say, BD, client acquisition, sales, what's like a top 2, top 3 tip maybe you would give them high level?
If they're struggling, going back to the basics, right? The ICP, talked to a firm recently, and I'd ask them like, hey, do you have your, again, ideal client profile? Do you have a territory plan? It's like, yes. And I asked, when's the last time you reevaluated? Like, about 18 months ago. Okay. The world was a little different than it was today, 18 months ago, right? She's like, yeah, I agree. I'm like, okay, so maybe we should refine that. And I always love the metaphor / story of if you're taking off from LA to go to New York on a plane, if you're 1 degree off, you finish 60 miles off course. I think the same applies for sales and BD. If you don't have a refined ICP and you don't put together the foundation, aka your territory plan, you will be off mark. You'll be off message. You won't be able to know how to serve your ICP the right way. You won't be able to catch their attention. And as a result, the goals you set for yourself, you won't even come close to. It'll be like that plane taking off from LA. You'll be so far off target. When you get to the end, you'll be like, how the hell did I even get here? It's like because you didn't reevaluate and readjust too, because who knows what the market's going to look like 6 months from now, right? It could change. So that's why you have to constantly be refining this, reevaluating it, and making potentially minor adjustments. I think people like to think that major changes are what they need to be successful. More often than not, it's small changes. It's tweaks here, it's tweaks there, it's little changes this, a little bit of different this, but those little changes do lead to bigger things. things. You don't need to throw out everything and start over. It's like, no, you just need to make minor refinements to get yourself back on course.
The people that you've taught or coached, right, personally and specifically, who've seen fantastic results, what do they have in common that those who, for example, struggled, or maybe it took them 2 to 5x longer, perhaps? Like the people that you've met in your entire career, whether it's athletics, whether it's like, your impressive career, to even what you're doing right now, the people who have come out at the end as top performers, the top 5, top 1 percentile, what would you say are like some of the winning kind of DNA factors that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, they have a growth mindset, right? They never think that they've reached the peak of their skills. I like the acronym ABL, always be learning. They're always out there learning. They never, there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. It's like in the beginning stages, you hit a certain point, you feel like you've got it figured out because you're so naive that you don't even realize how much more you don't know. And I think once you get past that, there's something called the valley of despair, which we all go through. And then you start seeing the results. You start becoming more of an expert. But even as you become an expert, you realize there's always someone out there I can learn from. There's always ways that I can get better. There's always ways I can grow. And having that mindset allows you to adapt, to change, to move with the markets, and to be successful long term. People think like they've got it figured out. Like, this is the way it was. It's like, yeah, it's how it was, but it's not how it should be now, right? The world has changed. The landscape has changed. You have to change with it. And having a fixed mindset will set you so far back. I love the saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I think ultimately the people I've worked with, even once they've gotten to the point where they're the smartest person in the room, they then go and find another room. They find new people to learn from. They find new content to consume. They find ways to make, again, maybe small changes here and there, but those small changes will lead to bigger results. I've talked to people that are brand new in the career. I've talked to people that have been 20 plus years in their career. The commonality between all the ones that are successful is they're always willing to learn. They're never here getting on a call saying like, I've got it all figured out. It's like, what can I learn from this individual that'll make me just a little bit better? And that little bit better will lead to bigger and better things.
Do you think that's something you can teach? Like, can you teach someone to develop a growth mindset? Can you teach someone to have a better work ethic? Or is it kind of like, hey, here are all the tactics and strategies and what you do, and just kind of see when blows?
Yeah, no, I think you can. I think you can teach it by pointing it out to them at times, right? So small wins, I mentioned that earlier. If you really hammer home the importance of small wins, and even when I'm getting on calls with people, I'll share some of my small wins too. Like, hey, I didn't sign any new deals last week, but I had a good conversation. Or I got rejected, but I found out this new information, right? Those small wins, by pointing out, they start seeing, oh wait, like, okay, so I am getting a little bit better, right? That is a small win, because a lot of people overlook it. They have, again, that binary mindset of, oh, it was a bad week last week because this deal fell through. Like, okay, yeah, it sucks it fell through. Like, I feel sorry for you about that, but you had to do something right to even get a deal in the first place, to even have an opportunity to work on it, right? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go back. Like, what did you do right? Like, well, I did this, and then I did this, and I did this. Like, well, those are wins. That's growth, right? We've got there. Now, do we need to tweak something to make sure the next one doesn't fall through? Yeah. But if we recognize these small wins, they then start recognizing themselves, and they have that growth mindset of like, every interaction or every failure is an opportunity to learn, even a little thing that I can then take and apply to the next situation. The work ethic piece, that's a little bit harder, right? Like, if you really want to help someone with a work ethic, is you have to understand their goals, right? Where are you trying to get to? And ultimately, all you're trying to do really as a coach is hold up the mirror so they can see what they're doing versus what they want to do. Because if they're saying like, I want to bill $500,000 a year, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, great goal. Do you feel like the activities you did last week are going to get you that goal or not? Like, no, because you only made 20 outreaches throughout the whole week. Like, do you think 20 outreaches is enough to hit $500,000? Probably not, right? Like, unless you're 20 for 20, which no one is, you're probably going to have to do a little bit more. We're going to have to do some things differently. But I think if you really want to help people in the work ethic, it is kind of like, it's illuminating the problem a little bit and holding the mirror up to them, because I can't pick up the phone for somebody. I can't send the email for somebody. I can't deal with rejection for somebody, but I can show them the things they've done, and hopefully that changes their behavior moving forward.
If somebody wants to be a recruiter, do you think it's wise to get a sales job before, or just find a good agency job, take the flop, and maybe, find hopefully a good program or two that can help them accelerate their career?
I think if you want to run your own business, if you want to be in the recruitment agency, I think going to work for a company is a great starting point. Now, the larger firms, which I've worked for, and this is stolen from a very much boiler room type setup, like, it is a very KPI driven, that's all they look at type of environment. And that's not for everybody. And I understand that, but it certainly teaches you what is needed to be successful, at least from an activity and effort standpoint. Now, did everything they teach, do I agree with? No, but it'll get you ready for getting into the recruitment world. Because when you're sitting there wondering like, why am I not getting a business? More often than not, it's going to come back to effort. effort and strategy. And if you don't have those two things, you can't be successful because you're just hoping, right? And hoping without a plan is a dream, right? Like that's a quote I love. I stole it from somebody, but I think it was a football coach. But yeah, like hoping without a plan is just a dream. But having a plan in place, that's a goal, right? You have a plan in place. You're trying to get to a goal. If you execute on that, you have a higher probability of being successful. There's no guarantees in anything in life. On the flip side, there's one guarantee. If you don't have a plan, you won't be successful. That's the only guarantee in life. Even if you have a plan in place though, there's no guarantee successful, but at least you're setting yourself up for an opportunity to be successful, which is all you really can do.
What are your thoughts between like reaching out to or hunting SMBs, startups versus more enterprise? Like, do you like one over the other?
Yeah. So I think it depends. Again, probably going back to like your goals, right? If you want to build $1 million plus a year, SMBs are probably not going to get you there, right? Unless you land with a Series A type company who just took off, right? You get in, like, oh, we've got these 2 sales roles open and we're in the process of raising a Series A or Series B. They get it like, oh, damn, we've got 40 openings. You can work on them all. It's like, okay, yeah, I've seen that story play out. It's awesome. It's a great spot to be in. But if your territory plan's filled with that and your goal is $1 million plus, it's pretty damn hard to get there. Now, if your goal is 200K, 250, yeah, maybe you can focus more SMBs. I think a healthy mix is really what you want to go to. But I also think, as I've kind of alluded to, just working back from your goals, right? The bigger the revenue goal is, the bigger clients you have to sign because every company only has a finite number of roles they're going to even have open throughout the course of the year. And there's no guarantee you're going to get all of them or they're even going to all fit within your wheelhouse. So you've got to make sure you have enough accounts that give you the opportunity to hit your goal.
I think a lot of people are just turned off with the speed of enterprises, right? You have to either get on the preferred vendors list, which can just extend that sales cycle a lot longer, or you just have to go through so many more loops, so many more people. But if you're able to do it and you're able to get in, I mean, it could set you up for a whole year or more.
Oh, it could set you up for years, right? Now, on the flip side, don't be like me and think that account will last forever because I've had it happen where that enterprise account that was worth $500,000 called and said, we're done. We just lost our biggest customer, which means you just lost your biggest customer. We have to let go of everybody. It's like, okay, that does happen. But you're right. The enterprise deals could set you up for years to come. They just take longer. There's a lot more people you're going to have to get in front of. I mean, really, you've got to rally together a bunch of champions in order to get that contract in place versus the SMBs. You may have to meet 1 or 2 people. Those are the decision makers. It's been much flatter of an organization. Contracts in place, quicker wins, which is great. Limited upside compared to enterprise size because those enterprise, you could be getting, I mean, hell, 20, 30, 40, 100 plus roles year over year.
Yeah. Getting into the seed and Series A as you go into the hockey puck growth, I was able to experience it a handful of times throughout my career. And boy, oh boy, it feels amazing. It feels like
it does. Yeah, it's like hitting the lottery, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you're always chasing that high, you know?
Right. But for every Series A that does hockey stick, there's probably 9 others that fail or at the very least remain stagnant. So you can't base your entire strategy around, well, if they get funding, things will be well. It's like, yeah, if though. Ifs and buts for candy and nuts, Christmas would be every day. That's not how it works in sales. You have to plan for the fact if they don't get it, what are you going to do in order to hit your goal? You're going to have to go after medium size, enterprise size, right? And I think, again, going back to the territory plan, which I know I keep harping on, but it's the basic, I think the basic building blocks for everything is you want to have a healthy mix of what I would consider A, B, and C, which is A's are your biggest, highest upside, highest revenue potential, but they're longer sales cycles. They can be harder to get into. But if you land 1 or 2 A's a year, they're going to make up anywhere between 20 to 40% of your goal, which is great. Then your B's and C's fill in the rest.
If there's one advice maybe that you can give to the audience, Keely's magical formula for following up, what you should do, what you should not do, what would it be?
That's one of the hardest questions because there's always so much context around it, right?
That deserves a whole episode.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it really does.
It really
like,
does.
Are you following up on candidate feedback? Are you following up on an open role? Are you just following up with a cold lead, right? Like each one of those, I think, comes with a different type of approach. But I think ultimately, one of the 2 things I'll say, one is you want to be persistent, but you don't want to burn a bridge, right? Where the point is, if you're following up, if you stop following up, they then forget about you, right? That's probably a good spot to be in. If you keep following up so much that they remember you later on because they hate you, not a good spot to be in. We don't want to do that. We're trying to build bridges, not burn them. The other side of things too, I think is more of a mindset piece because even when there's opportunity, like we're talking candidate feedback or there's an open job order that they gave you, but it hasn't been signed and you want to get a contract in place, people have this like mental reservation, like, I don't want to be annoying. Okay, cool. I get it. No one wants to be annoying and disliked in this world. I always ask people, hey, if you were sick and your doctor had a cure to your problems, would you want him to follow up with you at home? Would you want him to follow up with your work? Like, yeah, I would. What if they can catch you right there? Would you want him to follow up again the next day? Like, well, yeah, of course I'd want him to. Like, he can help me out. I'm like, cool. You're the doctor. They're the patient, right? You have a solution to their problem. You'd be doing them a disservice if you didn't follow up because you can help them them in their current pain with what you bring to the table. And a lot of people like that mental shift because then they realize, like, I'm not being annoying. I'm being pleasantly persistent because I believe in the value I bring and I believe I can help you out. And if you get the prospect or client on the phone, like, what do you want? It's like, look, I get it. You're annoyed. I follow up with you 4 days in a row, but here's why. I think I can help out X, Y, and Z reasons why. This is what's going on. Here's how I've helped out others. This is why I've been so persistent, because I wouldn't be doing my job as a recruitment partner to you if I just let this slip through the cracks. Because I'm here to help you out and you need my help today, not tomorrow, not next week. So I'm going to follow up with you today to make sure we get this problem solved as soon as possible.
I love that. I love that recommendation of simple mindset shift. I preach that all the time, Keely. It's like, hey, don't take, we're here to help, right? And if you can have that mindset with your first outreach and then continue that with the following up, you don't feel spammy. You don't feel like you're being too aggressive. You don't feel like you're stepping on anyone's toes. We're just happy to reach out and just do our jobs and to see if how we can help. Simple as that.
It's simple as that. Like, seek to understand, seek to help, ultimately leads to a sale. Like that mindset, like, I'm just trying to understand what's going on. It's a very powerful thing to tell a prospect / client, I don't know if I can help you out, but I'm gonna try to understand what's going on. And if I can, I'll make some recommendations. If I can't, I'll tell you no, but I'll point you in the direction of someone I think that can help you out. Like, that immediately makes everything better as far as I'm concerned. Because a lot of prospects get on these calls and, oh, they're just gonna hard sell me. I mean, I don't know if I can even help you out. Like, wait, this person's not gonna sell me? It's like, no, man, I'm just trying to understand your situation. And if I understand it well enough, I can then make a recommendation of if I can help, or if I can't, I'll get you the right person that can. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to help you out in whatever your current situation is. And if the day comes where you need my help and I can help you out, I want you to remember this and you want to call me moving forward. And people like that.
Keely, I love it. Before we let you go, I want to ask you one more thing. What is something you're truly excited about, near-term future? Is there something exciting that you're working on? Maybe perhaps you can give us audience here a little teaser of maybe what's to come with some of the exciting kind of sales kind of methodologies and principles that you're helping others to kind of level up with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Ironically enough, last week I finally, again, the Dunning-Kruger effect and the confidence, I finally worked up the confidence to start creating a digital product myself. I did a talk a couple weeks ago. People like that territory plan document. Had a bunch of people reach out to it, and someone's like, you should just charge people for it. I'm like, all right. Like, I created a whole video series using that document and a bunch of other things that went with it and started to put that out in the world, which I'm excited about because the feedback so far has been positive. And I would think just in general excitement, just overall, it does feel like, and again, early days, right? The first month of the year, it does feel like the pendulum's starting to shift towards the positive side of things for the recruitment world. I'm excited for everyone that stuck it out the last couple of years, right? I've said it before. I think those that have put in the hard work of the last couple of years, like really grinding it out where business wasn't as easy to get, I'm hopeful that 2025 is going to be the year those people get rewarded because they've been busting their tail, doing the right things, and companies are going to start hiring again. They're going to start turning to recruitment partners, and those people are going to start seeing the winning occur more and more, which is a good thing for all of us.
Well, Keely, I wish I could talk to you longer, but I want to be respectful to you and your students and all the great things that you're working on. But honestly, very, very impressed with your career. How are you able to transition from a football coach to where you are now to all the great professionals in the recruitment space that you are helping with? And it's so just warming and fantastic to meet other professionals in the space that are trying to do good and give really tremendous value to us recruiters and recruitment professionals. We have a tarnished image that we need to work very, very hard to show everyone, hey, there's good people here that are doing their best, and we're not all spammy and aggressive, and we're good people doing what we can here. And so really kind of appreciate you sharing a little bit more about your methodology, your principles. Ryan and I certainly appreciate your time, and we will certainly keep in touch and root for you and your continued success into the future. So thank you so much, Keely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
You got it.